Well, it's 5 minutes after. I know that's not U of T class time start time, but we will begin just because we've got a lot of content to cover. Again, my name's Kate Romano. I'm one of the academic advisors in the Registrar's office in a team of 7, and I'm joined today by my colleagues, Angel, also an academic advisor. Do you want to say hello, Angel?
Hi, everybody.
Angel will be looking after chat and things like that in the background. And I'm also joined by my colleague in the Career Center, Claire, who's co-presenting with me today. Hi,
Good
Claire.
afternoon. Welcome.
And we've got one of our peer leaders, Leah, in the background, also helping with chat. And we've got some other staff shadowing. So there's a lot of us here today. This session is being recorded. We will post this later. And slides will also be shared to attendees as well. So you don't have to worry about writing anything down. Just before we get started, um, you're welcome to use the chat, but keep in mind that it's don't divulge anything that would be private information. We can't address direct questions about your record here today. That's not the purpose of that. A lot of your questions are probably going to get answered in the presentation. So those who are monitoring the chat may not answer your question specifically because they know it's coming up. Anyhow, so today's presentation is on the program selection workshop, which is so timeful. Right now, next week, we're starting round 1 of program selection. So I'm glad you're able to come today. So thank you for taking the time. There will be time at the end to answer your questions, okay? There'll be Q&A. So again, this is co-presented by the Registrar's Office and the Career Center. So there's a lot we cover. Leah, if you wouldn't mind, next slide. Thank you. So our agenda covers off choosing your programs and what resources we can provide you with. So in choosing your programs, we'll go through defining programs, the timing of choosing programs, programs and career options, how those two can be married together, application deadlines, what are the academic tools to help you achieve your goal for certain programs, and how to request a program. In the resources, there's lots of resources provided by the Career Center, as well as resources provided by the Office of the Registrar. And Degree Explorer is a big tool. I use that a lot in my advising sessions. And there's also contact us information that we'll give at the end. Next. So understanding your degree. Lots of students think I'm thinking about program. I've got to be in a program. So that might look like 1 specialist or 2 majors or 1 major, 2 minors. But there's more to your degree than just your program. So I just want to briefly go over that. The next thing. So yes, your program of study might be a specialist or a major or a minor, or the combinations that are listed here at the bottom of the screen, which are valid combinations. But your overall credits that you require for your degree is 20 credits. Of those 20 credits, 13 of them have to be at the 200 level or higher. And of those 20 credits, 6.0 of them have to be at the 300 level or higher. Those are some higher level degree requirements that you'll see on Degree Explorer. The next. And then distribution requirements is a big piece of your degree requirements. Some students call these electives. At Mississauga campus, we have 3 distribution requirements. There's your humanities, social science, and science. You need to do 1.0 credit of each. So that could be a full year course or 2 half credits. You have to complete this by the end of your degree. Okay, that's an essential degree requirement. Next. So choosing your program. It's an exciting time and all those possibilities. Next slide, please. First off, there's different concentrations, types of programs. There's specialists, majors, and minors. Specialists typically have between 10.0 to 18.0 credits in some cases to complete that program. Of the credits at the 300 level, it's usually 4.0 credits, of which 1.0 credit must be at least at the 400 level. So there's a more concentration of courses in that area of study and more courses at the higher level. In a major, it's usually 6.5 to 9.0 credits to complete a major. And then there's less credits required at the 300 and 400 level, and that's usually 2.0 credits. Minors are typically 4.0 credits. There are a couple of minors that are 4.5 credits to complete. And they have less credits required at that 300 and 400 level with usually 1.0 credit. Next slide. So eligibility, when are you eligible? Well, you select your program once you have, or you expect to, so you're on track to, completing 4.0 credits at the end of that session. Program entry requirements, though, are an essential key piece of are you eligible? It's not just I've got 4.0 credits. Sometimes it requires completion of specific courses. Sometimes it requires achieving a specific minimum grade in those courses. Sometimes it's a minimum overall cumulative grade point average, or what we call CGPA, for certain programs that we can call limited, which I'll explain in another slide. You can change programs later. Some students think I'm locked in, this is it. And it's hard to make a decision because I think this is it. I'm headed down this path. That is not true. Students do change programs sometimes. You do have to consider, are there going to be enrollment requirements that I don't have? So now I have to sort of circle back and do that. It's not uncommon to go from a specialist to a major, or sometimes from a major to a specialist in the same area of study. So don't feel you're locked in. Lots more information is available on our program selection website with lots of different pages on there. So next slide, please. So questions to ask before you're choosing your program, and I believe this is over to the Career Center, Claire.
Okay, so I think that for me, it's very sad when students show up in year 4, getting ready to graduate in April, and say to me, I don't know what I want to do. And I say, when are you graduating? And they say in April or June or whenever. And so I think that there's some questions as you begin to think about your program, is to think about, what do you want to do after you graduate? And how will the program that you're thinking about choosing help you to get there? And remember, as Kate says, you can always change. And then we can help you once you make that change. We can help you to figure things out. Um, then you have to think about, will you need further education? Will you need to go to grad school? Will you need to go to professional school? And that's important, because if you're going, for example, you want to do medicine, then you need to have um, certain grades, a certain GPA. But not only that, you also need to have completed some volunteer work, some employment, and have some exposure to the world of medicine. So that is important to know. And then, what is the labor market? What's the labor market will be like when you graduate? So remember, you're choosing the program in 2025, but you don't graduate until 29 or 28. And so it's to look at what's the market going to be like in 28. And the federal government does have a website that they can that can give you that kind of information. And then sort of look at what are the emerging careers and what are the industries that uh, are that are growth industries. But you also have to bear in mind that nobody expected COVID to happen. And so the graduates the students that graduated in 28, 2018, no, was it 18? Yeah, 2019. Some of them lost jobs because the industry that they were in um, uh, went out of business. And so it's important, as you think about all of that, to remain flexible. Next slide, if it's mine. All right, so how can we help you in the Career Center? We can help you to consider, what can I do with my degree after I graduate? Do I want to go to graduate school? And if I do, then what do I need to get there? For example, if you're thinking of teaching, to get into, you've got a couple of options. You can do a master's in teaching, or you can do a Bachelor of Education. If you're doing the Master's of Teaching, there's only one institution that offers that, and that is OISE. And OISE requires that you have 300 hours of either work or volunteering or work study or mentoring with with the age group that you're thinking of teaching. So for example, if you want to get in teach high school, then you need to have those hours. That's number one. Number two, you need what they call teachables. And so for high school, you'll need two subjects that you can walk in to a school and teach. So these are things that are important. So you can't come in September and you graduate in April and think that you will get 300 hours within that time. Because applications open in October, they close in November. So it's very important to think about. Even if you change your mind, that's okay, but at least you're beginning to think about it. We provide opportunities for you to participate in things like Job Shadow, opportunities for you to network with employers. We have got, I think we hold, not I think, I know, we hold two employer fairs during the academic year. And so that's a way, again, of getting to meet and talk to employers. We have labor market information on our website, and we provide online assessment and other tools to support your career decision. Next slide, please. All right, so here's where we start. And a lot of times when you're thinking about a career, it's what's happening out there, but it's also what's happening with you. And I also want to caution you that it's really not what's happening with your friend, because we're all different. And so we need to look at, it's important that you look at certain things. And the Career Center has designed this, I'm not sure what one calls it, but when you go into Quarkus on the Career Center page, you can click any one of these topics, for example. Thank you very much. And so if you're looking at assessing yourself, so the goal is to identify your skills, your values, interests, and personal characteristics. And then look at external factors and barriers that in order to help you to make informed decisions. And then explore careers, identify and research various careers and options. So as you go along, you can you can see where this identifies, or you're able to gain information about yourself and about various careers. For example, express your skills. A lot of times students really can't identify the skills that they have. And it's important because if you're looking for work, you must be able to identify and to express your skills to employers. And so this helps you to become familiar with your learning style and who you are and such. This could be found on Quarkus on the Career Center website, and I would suggest that you spend some time exploring. Next slide, please. This is a big one. And what can I do with my degree? A lot of times, I don't know. And I know it's not funny, but sometimes when somebody says, well, what can I do with this degree? There's a lot one can do with the degree. So it is important that we take the myth away that there is one singular path from your program to a specific career. That's not the way it works. And it doesn't work that way for many reasons. Number of reasons. You may be doing two majors, a specialist, two majors, a minor, one major, two minors. And so all of those programs, you're acquiring skills and developing interests in certain areas. And so there's no one particular career that you could, that leads from a particular program. And then, of course, harkening back to my previous slide, we have to look at our personality. We have to look at the interests that we have. We look at our values. What is it that we deem important that we want to have in a career? And are there alternate programs, alternate paths, sorry, that exist that I could take from that program? For example, we've got if you're doing psychology, there's a workshop and it's called not psychology, alternative to medicine. And so students who come in and they want to get to medicine, but they don't make the grade, then we look at alternatives. So obviously that means that there are many pathways to get to different programs, to get to different careers from a particular program like biology or physics. It's important to assess yourself, know your values. What is it that's important to you? What are your interests? What is it that will make you feel involved in a career? What are your skills? And then the kinds of personality that you have. I often tell students, I couldn't take a job that required me to wear a suit and high heels on Bay Street. It's not my personality. So I know that, and that's something I discovered way back, and so I looked at alternative careers. So knowing what these are helps you to make meaningful steps or to take meaningful steps and make more meaningful career decisions. Next slide. So here's an example of how one program will lead to a number of careers. And so you do chemistry, and one may feel, okay, so if I do chemistry, I have to go into a particular career. But you can get into forensics, you can be a teacher, you can get into medicine, a pharmacist, you can work for the government in water purification. So just think about when you think about the program that you are choosing, then try to do some research in terms of what are the career options that's available to that program. Next slide. And so we also have this slide, this information on our website. When you're thinking about making some career decisions and learning about the world of work in relation to yourself, you have to look at, we suggest that you look at the internal pieces, which means the skills, the interests, the values, and the personal style. And then you look at the external pieces. And the external pieces are important because, for example, your significant others, what are they saying? Sometimes parents want students to pursue a certain career by any means necessary, but it's not working. And so we in the Career Center can help you to navigate the relationship in terms of helping your parents to understand that maybe there are other options to what they're suggesting. Do you want to have a career that will give you a lot of time for work and leisure? And if that's the case, then you don't take a career that you are going to be required to work shift. And then the labor market information is important. And we do have labor market information on our website, and then you could get that also from the federal government. And educational background. Would you need to go out and continue with a master's, or do you need a professional degree, or will you go to college and sort of take certification in or postgrad certification in subjects like marketing, to further your career choice. Next slide. While you're acquiring skills, academic skills, you also need to think about those transferable skills. And by that, I mean, wherever you go, you will need to be able to communicate effectively. So whether it's writing reports or making presentations. And some careers require quite a bit of research. And then look at quantitative skills. And then we look at problem-solving skills, being able to think critically and to analyze and to solve problems. The ability to be resilient, to manage stress, to be flexible, and to adapt to change, especially in this climate, it's very important. Working with people, developing leadership skills, collaborating, and developing interpersonal skills. I know that sometimes students say, well, I have leadership skills. And I say, well, how did you acquire that? And they can't tell me. And so if I ask the question in the Career Center, if you put it on your resume and you go to an employer, you have to say how you got them. And it's important that you understand what those skills are, and then go out and get them. Or don't say that you have them if you haven't had the opportunity to acquire them. Next slide. So in recapping, we assess our values, our skills, interests, personality. We've got an assessment on Quirkus, and it's called Know Yourself. It helps you to discover your strengths and your values and interests. And there's also My Career Center online that will take you through a number of activities. You should have your first meeting with a career counselor, either before you make your choice or after. There's a section called Careers by Major, and I want to just highlight that when you look at the careers, that's not all the careers that are available, but we've just given you a sample of the kinds of things you can do with those programs. There's career cruising, which again is also on our website, but you also can get these from CLN through the student career resources, and check out our program, the program plans page, and that also gives some guidelines on how you can begin to build skills and build experiences. And please, I urge you to sign up for workshops. We also, in this academic year, introduced drop-ins. And so you don't have to make an appointment, you don't have to attend a workshop, but you can drop in. We collaborate with Office of the Registrar, and it's usually in the Davis building next to the hub. Doors are open. You can come in, you can speak to a career counselor or a career assistant or office of the registrar staff, and we can hopefully provide you with the kind of information you need. Okay, next slide. Boy, my mouth is dry. I'm not sure if you can see this, but this is the program plan that I just referenced. And so across the top, you can see where the university has produced a plan for each program. And so across the top, it talks about what you need, the subjects you need to progress, to get into the second year, third year, fourth year. And then how do you build your skills? You can attend networking events, you can get into co-op, you can find employment in the summer. And then how do you build your network? You join various associations depending on the program, and build a global mindset. I've had students who have, in the summer, they have gone abroad and they've done some volunteer work. And then, of course, plan your career. And at different stages, you come in and talk to us about where you're at and what is it that you need to make sure that you're on the right track. And I want to say something here about career certainty versus career clarity. Because when you leave high school and you come to university, you are certain, dead certain, this is what you want to do. But somewhere along the line, some students, either through the academic work or through the job shadow program, they've gone out, they've talked to people, they've seen what the work is about, or they've been to a networking session, and that career that they were certain about, they don't want to do it anymore because they've become very clear as to what the functions are. And so I think I would urge you to participate in as many opportunities as you can. The job shadow opportunity. We've also got something called In the Field that's explained on our website, that you take every opportunity that you can to speak to people in various careers that you're interested in to get a sense of what it's all about before you kind of nail it down. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. So here we go, exploration, research, work. One of the things I say to students is that you're paying a lot of money to be here. And my suggestion would be that you take every opportunity that's available to you to make sure that you're successful. Use the services, and there are many services. So while at university, it's important that you seize every opportunity to build a strong foundation. And by that, I mean there's work-study opportunities, there are co-op opportunities, there are volunteer opportunities, and then you have the clubs where you can join and work up into leadership positions. Successful students find out sort of what's out there beyond the classroom. So in the classroom, we know that you do have presentations and you work in teams and perhaps you do some research. But what's beyond that? And those students who sort of go beyond the classroom and begin to get some skills, they begin to use those they can use those opportunities to build those skills and acquire knowledge from professionals, and begin to network. A network is important because you may need somebody to write a reference when you finish that you want to go to grad school. You may be looking for work after graduation. And because you've been networking, because you've been out there, getting to know people, you can use that network to your advantage. And so these students figure out how to do all of that stuff and to benefit from those activities. So when they leave university, you don't only leave with the degree, which I have seen happen. They also have accumulated maybe 3, maybe 4 for those who started in year 1, years of work or volunteer experience. And by the way, working as a work study student, don't believe that because you're working on campus, you're not getting skills. You are. Depending on the department that you're working in, you're developing a lot of important skills. Students who do this tend to find employment a lot faster because they've got experience, they've networked, they've got exposure, and they're more comfortable talking to employers. In addition, if you're going to grad school like to see that students not only have a 4.0, 3.9, 3.8, but they have developed other skills. They were able to balance out academic work with other kinds of volunteering or work study or actual employment. And so that's important. For example, if you're majoring in psychology and you want to pursue a master's in psychology, then you need to try to find volunteer work or employment in a crisis center, or maybe with Children's Aid, or some area that will help you to kind of develop the skills like listening skills. And it's important to understand if you're getting into a master's in psych, what are the skills that are important? And then you find opportunities to develop those skills. Okay, next slide. Okay, I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Claire. Lots of things to think about. So the nuts and bolts of programs and program combinations, because students often say, can I take this program with this program? Well, you can take up to 3 programs. If you are in 3 programs, one of them has to be a minor. But this lists right here the minimum combination of programs you have to complete in order to be satisfying that requirement for program towards degree. So minimum combination is either 1 specialist or 2 majors or 1 major and 2 minors. This doesn't mean you couldn't do a specialist and 1 minor or 2 majors and 1 minor, but this is the minimum requirement. There are some programs that you can't combine, and that is very clearly spelled out in the calendar when you look up that program. So that's a big resource to refer to. But much like what Claire is saying, combining your academic interests in a way that works for you is really important. Students often ask me, well, I'm interested in this. What else should I combine it with? And I think, well, what are you interested in? What are your skills? What do you want to develop? What's important to you? Often I'll refer them to our writing minor because I think that that is useful no matter what you do after your undergrad. But you can use the academic calendar to verify program specific exceptions, as I was saying, to certain majors that you can't combine. But it also lists enrollment requirements, completion requirements, but we'll talk more about that. Next slide, please. So again, combinations of programs will equal certain degrees. At UTM, we offer 4 different degrees. Next thing, Leah. So an HBA or an HBSC, an Honors Bachelor of Arts or an Honors Bachelor of Science, can be earned if, let's say you combine a management major, which is an arts major, and you combine it with a science major, the psychology major. So you're in one arts major, science major. You could choose to earn the HBA or the HBSC. By default, our office, usually it gets coded as an HBSC, but you do have the choice. Next. To pursue an HBA, an Honors Bachelor of Arts, let's say you're taking two majors and they're both arts. That would mean you're earning an Honors Bachelor of Arts. Next. A Bachelor of Commerce, you can only earn the Bachelor of Commerce if you are pursuing a commerce specialist. Now, we have different streams within commerce specialists, but it has to be the specialist, not the major. So only that high concentration program, the specialist, would earn you a Bachelor of Commerce. And the next one? A Bachelor's of Business Administration, also what we offer at UTM. And that is only, much like commerce specialist, you can only earn the Bachelor's of Business Administration if you're pursuing the management specialist. So a management major would not earn you a Bachelor's of Business Administration. It's important to just remind students, I find I get this question, well, I want my degree in biology. You are not earning a degree in a program. Your programs are listed on your transcript, but your degree is not, I'm earning my physics degree, right? It would depend on what programs you combine and what that makes you eligible for what type of degree you're going to earn. Next slide. This is just another representation of what possible combinations. I mean, it's there's more than one way to get there. So here the student is doing a geographical information science major. That's a science major. They're combining it with two minors, a computer science minor and a business science and entrepreneurship minor. So those are two science minors. So all of their programs are sciences and they are pursuing an HBSC, as it says at the bottom of that column. In the middle column, this student is pursuing a criminology major, which is an arts, combining it with a French minor and an economics minor. All programs are arts. This means the student is pursuing an honors Bachelor of Arts. And then this right-hand column, the student is pursuing a CCIT major, which is an arts major, combining it with a computer science minor, which is a science minor, and a statistics minor, also a science minor. So one arts major with two science minors puts that student in the situation of being eligible to earn the Honors Bachelor of Arts or the Honors Bachelor of Science. Okay. Next slide. Program types. So I sort of alluded to this earlier. There are three program types. Type 1 is unlimited enrollment. So there are no program entry requirements when you look it up in the calendar, and there's unlimited space in the program. This is open 12 months of the year. Anytime on Acorn, you can add it, much like you could add a course that has space. You'd go onto Acorn under Enroll and Manage Programs. You could start typing the program name, and then you can enroll, and it's immediately active. Okay? Usually you request these once you're on track to completing 4.0 credits. Next. And then type 2s and 3s. These are limited programs, and they're limited in different ways, somewhat. Type 2, they have program entry requirements and have unlimited space. So the program entry requirements might be specific courses with minimum grades or a specific minimum CGPA. Type 3s similarly may have, they'll have program entry requirements, but they have limited space. So now the requirements that are listed in the calendar are the minimum requirements, but doesn't guarantee admission because there's limited space in the program. So let's say the cutoff or the minimum grade required is, say, a 63% in the specific courses to enroll in a program. But achieving those minimum grades doesn't get you into the program because it's based on the competitiveness of all applicants. So the grade cutoff that ends up getting admitted to any given program can be variable from year to year in this category of type 3 programs. Sometimes the CGPA can vary from year to year. Grade cutoffs can vary. Examples of that are computer science, commerce, things like that. Additional information may be required for some programs, supplementary application, things like that. So again, an example is commerce and management. They are type 3s. You should refer to the academic calendar for specific program entry requirements. When you're looking at type 1s, you won't see the beginning of the listing for that program will say completion requirements. A type 2 will say it'll start with enrollment requirements. So that means, oh, I need to do certain things before I can request this program. And in a type 3, you'll see enrollment requirements, and then you'll see some language that talks about meeting the minimum grade does not guarantee admission. It's variable CGPA per each year. I mean, the language is somewhat consistent, but you'll see that there's a mention of a variable cutoff. Okay. Next slide, please. So this is probably what everyone wants to know. If you haven't noticed, we did update our dates for the request period for program selection. So type 2s and 3s do have request periods. As I said, type 1s, it's automatic enrollment. It's open 12 months of the year. Round 1 is coming up right now for program selection, or what sometimes we call spring request period. So this opens next Monday, March 3rd, and it closes on April 30th. It doesn't matter whether you request on the first day or the last day. There isn't a priority for this, whether it's a type 2 or a type 3. It's open during that period. It's on Acorn. You go in under under academics, enroll and manage programs, and then you can start typing the name of the program, or if you've looked it up and you know its code, you can type that in. And then you'd add the button, you'd click on the button that says request. And then if you get invited, there's a deadline to accept. And that is if you get invited after round 1, the deadline is May 30th. Typically, these courses that are looking for your final grades, looking for a CGPA, they're waiting for all your grades to be reported and for the CGPA to be updated by our office before they're going to send out invites or not. The next bit, please. So round 2 is often sometimes we'll call the summer request period. So let's say you're on track to completing the enrollment requirements for a type 2 or 3 program in summer, not at the end of winter, then you would request in the summer request period. And again, you do this on Acorn. Its dates are a little bit different, of course. June 4th is the start date for round 2, and it ends August 22nd. It closes, and then invites start going out again for programs that are looking for your CGPA. They wait for all of that to come in, which is generally late August, early September. If it's a competitive program, a type 3 program, then they're looking at all applicants' grades to be in a CGPA and to compare and go, this is where our cutoff's going to be, and this is who we're offering it to. And again, the invitation deadline to accept, if you are given an invite, is September 14th. Next. I think there's another link on application deadlines. This is the link to the page on our program selection website. Again, you're going to get the slides after this, and anything that looks like it's linked or hyperlink does link in the file. Next slide. So results, after you request a type 2 or type 3 program, the departments assess your application, and you may get refused or you may get invited. If you're refused, I would encourage you to speak to an academic advisor in the registrar's office to talk about what could be your next best step. Because sometimes it's a good idea to keep trying, and sometimes it's not a good idea to keep trying, and it'll all depend. If you're invited, make sure you click accept by that deadline. So you've accepted the program and you get invited. You're now active in it if you accept it. Next. So some things to consider, really important little caveats here. Transfer credits and or CR, meaning credit, you've earned the credit in a course if you chose this assessment method known as credit, no credit. If you chose CR notations, they don't always count for program entry requirements. And this is listed in the calendar under that, certain programs it'll say. So some programs require 4.0 credits with a final grade for entry because they might be competitive programs with a CGPA cutoff, and a credit, no credit doesn't factor into your CGPA. So that doesn't make sense to count it as part of your 4.0 credits for purposes of entry into program. Some programs are very specific and they require 4.0 UTM credits with a final grade for entry. An example there is a biology program. So they're very specific. Also important is to consider deregulated program fees. The commerce program, the computer science, the ICCIT, the Communication Culture Information Technology programs. Those are examples of deregulated program fees, and you should really read up on the information regarding that. The tuition is higher. It's something to be very mindful of, particularly, I would say, for domestic students, because the cost difference per half credit is quite significant. So you just want to be have the knowledge about that and be prepared for that in terms of your budget. And more information on those tuition fee schedules is available on the student accounts website. Next slide. So just some tips. If you're applying to a type 2 or 3 program, apply to multiple programs. You can apply to as many programs as you wish. I tell students, if you're interested in a biology specialist, well, apply for the biology specialist, apply for the biology major, apply for a biology for health sciences major, apply for a biology minor. Just hit everything just in case, because they have different entry requirements, different grades, different CGPA. Who knows what your grades are going to be, because you're applying in March, let's say, but your grades and your CGPA aren't calculated to the end of April or May, so you don't know yet, right, if you're going to hit that goal. You may know with a certainty, or you may not, right? So you just want to increase your chances if you're eligible to apply to what you're eligible for, that you're interested in. As it says there, invitation's not guaranteed. Again, for those type 2 programs, if you meet the enrollment requirements that are published in the calendar, then you'll get the invite. A type 3 program, not the same thing, because they have limited number of spots in the program. We always say if you're not on track to being in the programs that you want, and it was a type 2 or 3, then you'll need to add a temporary type 1 program. Sometimes we'll use a language placeholder, but it's temporary, and it doesn't mean you're pursuing that program. It's a bit of a workaround that's an administrative issue in terms of when a student's on track to entering fall, their second year, let's say, and they've got 4.0 credits or more. When they do course enrollment in July, they need to be in that valid combination of programs that I mentioned earlier. If you are not, ACORN will block you from course enrollment. Okay? Don't want to get too hung up on that right now. So I like to talk about parallel programming or alternate program planning. A really good example is commerce. A student wants to pursue a commerce specialist. They should also consider, if they're on track to meeting the enrollment requirements for commerce, to also apply for the economics major. First of all, an economics major is completely self-contained requirements inside the commerce specialist. But let's say they don't get that invite for commerce, but they do get it for economics. They can at least start pursuing those economic program requirements for an economics major, have priority enrollment for the ECO 200 level courses. It's a parallel plan while they might be working towards still applying for commerce, which is a separate discussion, but always think about your backup plan or programs that are close to each other. We do have a video on choosing your program, which is really helpful. This is also, again, on our program selection website, which has lots of resources. Next. Alternative academic plans. I know no one ever thinks about it. Well, I want to pursue my plan B. That's why I came here. I know we don't do that, but sometimes things happen, or your interests change, or you discover something you really love. If you don't get into your program after first year, again, you're going to need to add that temporary type 1 program. Typically, I say add a type 1 specialist, because that'll satisfy that combination of programs, and you only have to think about one placeholder. Meet with an academic advisor to discuss whether you should be thinking about reapplying for that program that you wanted to pursue, and to consider other options. There's more than one way to get to a goal, which Claire has talked about and we'll talk about more. As I say, a lot of us came to university with an idea in mind, and maybe it pivoted, and it wasn't a bad thing. It's not failure, it's just a different way forward. But choosing courses that could lead to multiple programs is smart too, so you want to consider that. And we do have some information on alternative program options also on our program selection website pages. Okay. One of my favorite tools, I've already said it, is the Degree Explorer tool. This is on ACORN under Academics, under Planning Tools. I use this for future planning with students. It also is your real-time tracking your progress in your current courses, and maybe you're in programs and you can track your progress in programs, but you can track all of your degree requirements there and look at your academic history. Using the planner tool is where you can add future plans of program choices, courses. I will often do this in a parallel plan way where I'll say, again, I'll use the example, I'll say, a student wants to pursue a commerce specialist, so I'll add in an economics major and I might add in a math minor or a stats minor or something, right? And then show future courses and how they would apply hypothetically, right, to their chosen programs and their backup program. Also considering looking at the degree requirements. What else could a student pursue while they're trying to get into a program, but they can't take certain courses? Let's say you want to pursue a type 3 program and their courses at the 200 level and up are restricted. So what other things can you think about while you're waiting to get into a program? I like to say, think about your electives, those distribution requirements. That can often trigger you being exposed to something that you hadn't thought of before, that you kind of go, hey, I really like visual studies. Maybe I'll do that as a minor. So just be open-minded. And that planner tool can really, it's a great visual to show you what you could do in the future and how that will satisfy program and degree requirements. Again, meet with an academic advisor if you've got question about your degree requirements. In the registrar's office, we look at your degree, we look at the big picture. And if you have questions about program entry or completion requirements, you should be speaking to the program advisor at the department or program office. Program advisors in department and program offices might have slightly different titles that might say academic counselor, undergraduate advisor, but that's the person you want to speak to if you have questions about program entry or completion requirements. And we've got a lovely little video on the planner tool as well to help you with that. Next. So I believe, wait, this is Claire.
Okay. So just to recap, it's important to, when we talked about the internal and the external, to think about your strengths and your values, your interests, and your weaknesses, because one of the things employers do is to ask you what, to share a weakness with them. So it probably would be a good idea to consider that. And then ask yourself, what were the reasons for considering this program? How do these reasons connect with who you are? And are there other careers that are more suitable for you? Make an appointment to speak with a career counselor to explore your options. And if you are an international student, we do have two career counselors that are um, that work specifically with international students also. Next page, please. Consider further education options that match your strengths and interests. So for example, if you are not sure that you want to do a master's, but you're thinking of something along the line of marketing, that's an option that you can consider. And a number of, I know Sheridan offers a program in marketing where you get the certification. Um, so that's an option. Also, professional schools like law, dentistry, um, pharmacy, teaching, and so on are also programs to consider. But you need to think about that early in the process so that you can begin to prepare and get the necessary skills and outside of the classroom that would sort of help your application. Next slide. I think by now students understand that um, success is not, you join the company, you work 45 years, and then you leave with a gold watch. It doesn't happen like that. And I think that I mentioned COVID, and that's a really good example of how one's career can be hijacked, and then you have to sort of pivot into something else. And so, what success really looks like, it's the stops and the starts, and you may have to take a job that's less um, in pay to really then move into something else and then come back and take up where you want to be. And so sometimes you have to change careers altogether. And so just be flexible and be adaptable to change, I think. But it's not uh, sort of, it would be a good idea when you're doing your networking to talk to people about how did they get to where they are and what are sort of the pitfalls. Next slide. And this is another way of, I mean, some of the things that you can talk to people about when you are networking, and especially alumni. We bring a lot of alumni in to talk to students about, their journey. And these are some things that you may want to ask them, how did they deal with disappointment? What sacrifices they had to make? Um, you know, how did they deal with failure? Uh, Persistence. What does persistence mean in that kind of work that line of work they're doing? Next slide. There's nothing. So career planning resources, we've got choosing your program, and this is on our website, uh, careers by year, careers by major, and then the program plans. And I'm always surprised that some students, at the end of their 4 years, they have never looked at the Career Center website. So I urge you and I invite you to have a look, to review some things that are relevant to you, because it is important. And remember that, well, maybe not you, but your parents are paying for it. Next slide. Career cruising is something that we have on CLN, on the student resources, and it provides a profile for the student. When you answer the questions, they give you a profile, and then that profile, they match it to careers from a pile of 400 options. And so you can begin there. Once you've done that, you can come in and talk to a career counselor. We also have assessments in our office that we use that can help you to begin the conversation of what can I do with this degree when I'm done. Again, the Know Yourself model is an interactive assessment module, and it can help you better understand yourself as it relates to careers and career options. Next slide. We are in the new space. It's down the hall from Timmy's. And I also want to invite you to visit our library. It is in the hub. And I mean, there's a big thing that says hub. If you go to the desk, the staff there will show you how to access the various binders with information. And I think there's a photo on the side that sort of gives you an idea of what those binders look like. And then you can, we've got some really nice seating areas that you could spend some time reviewing various jobs, various careers, and other information. All right, next slide. So you could phone or send an email or drop by to make an appointment with a career counselor in the career center. Our phone number is there, our email is there, and then access the website and look at the information we have on CLN. Also, on CLN, we've got a job board, and I think last count there were 5,000 jobs that you can access. Now, some of the jobs have been filled, but we keep adding jobs on a daily basis, and so it's important that if you are looking, that you could find jobs there also. And there are part-time jobs, full-time jobs, on-campus jobs, off-campus jobs. There's volunteer opportunities, and it's all there. Next slide. And so we've got a number of workshops coming up. For example, there's a workshop called Sweats to Suits. And it's, you are at university and you're in sweats, and then you're getting ready to graduate and you start wearing suits and nice clothing. And so obviously that's self-explanatory. We're going to have alumni come in and talk to students who are getting ready to graduate. But I invite you to show up, because you probably will be able to, get some information that may be helpful. So again, it's on our website and it's on CLN. Next slide. So within the hub, there's we have a career wellness series. So you can attend a session and book an appointment if you'd like to. March the 10th, there's Confronting Burnout, and then March the 17th, it's Dreaming About Your Future. And so these are a couple of things that you would find if you scan the QR code, that you will be able to access that. Sorry, I'm working with two screens on this, which I shouldn't be. So next slide. We have got a wonderful, wonderful dog by the name of Dino. And Dino is usually in our drop-in session. So if we have a drop-in session with the Office of the Registrar, you'll find Dino there. And Dino offers, he's an assisted therapy dog, and very, very well-mannered and mild-mannered, and provides a lot of comfort to all of us, really. So you can see Dino on tomorrow at 10 o'clock and next Tuesday from 2 p.m. And you can also make an appointment to sit with Dino and meet Dino in an office setting. Okay, next slide.
Thank you, Claire.
Okay.
I want to meet Dino.
Please do come over. Yeah.
So just to recap some of our resources on the Registrar's website, the program selection landing page takes you to many different pieces about program selection, including choosing your program, step-by-step instructions on how to do this. listing all of our programs. When I was talking about find a type 1 specialist, if you go to list all of our programs alphabetically, it lists it all with the right-hand column indicating if it's a type 1, 2, or 3. So that's a really handy, quick look in one place of what we offer. The academic calendar is an invaluable resource to find your enrollment requirements, completion requirements, contact information for the program. The rules and regulations for the calendar, of course, also talks about all the rules and regulations for our academic policies. Program and degree requirements are all there, and entry and completion requirements for your program. Next slide, please. And just a lot of the resources and tools outside of the registrar's office, again, on this left-hand side, the academic calendar we've talked about. I've talked about Degree Explorer, great for what you're doing right now and your future planning. Timetable Builder is essential for you to see what courses are being offered in the next session, and also being very mindful of enrollment controls. If you're not familiar with that, that's when courses are given priority enrollment at some times for certain programs and certain students in certain programs. Some courses, again, for those programs that are deregulated, often those 200 level courses and up are restricted enrollment controls, restricted at all time to students in specific programs. So that's in enrollment controls you find in the timetable builder, and you find course offerings there. Health and Counseling Center, mental, physical health, please connect with them. Accessibility services, if you need academic accommodations, if you have a diagnosed disability or you're unsure, you could connect with them. If you're an international student or you're thinking about international studies, please connect with the International Education Center. There's so much for you to experience in your undergrad, and what a great opportunity to learn abroad if that's something that you're interested in. Program advisors, again, sometimes I'll say department, sometimes I'll say program. I'm talking about the same thing. Their contact information you find in the calendar under their list of programs, under faculty and staff. Career Center, obviously, we already seen their links. And I don't think we've touched on this, but the Robert Gillespie Academic Skills Center, a huge resource with learning strategists, one-on-one appointments, workshops. You can get one-on-one appointments for writing skills, math, numeracy skills. They have a whole program on English if you struggle with English and you want to develop that. So lots of resources there. And just to pick up on another thing that's there for you is the facilitated study groups. If you haven't engaged in that in terms of academic support, that's where upper year students who've done well in a course are leading weekly drop-in sessions to review content and talk about questions with students who are taking the course. Next slide. So we've got lots of events as well. We've got our weekly drop-in office hours every Monday and Wednesday. We've got FAQ Fridays every Friday, except reading week we didn't. Every Friday at 9 a.m. we do it for an hour, and at 1 p.m. we do it for an hour. These are virtual drops-ins, the FAQ Fridays. You sign up for those. The academic advising office hours is just walk-in. You don't have to sign up. And then the last one here is the academic and career planning drop-in. I think our next one, I was just checking, I think is the 11th of March. But really importantly, that's not on this page, is SPY, and I'll never say this right or remember it, Student Program Planning Interactive Exhibition. SPY is our short form, and this is where we all come together. This is the registrar's office. This is academic units with departmental advisors, career center, all the other resources on campus, all of those pieces put together in one place. And that happens on March 6th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this is in the Grand Hall over at MN. So I would encourage you to make time for that this year. It's a fabulous way to hands-on talk to, I'm talking to political science. Oh, wait, that means I want to talk to economics, and it's just an incredible resource for you guys. So please engage in that. Make time if you have it in your timetable to attend. Again, March 6th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Next slide. Oh, yes. Thank you for joining us. Truly, I'm always happy when students make the time to come and listen to our presentations, because we can't say it all in an appointment, and I think it's all valuable information. Just the next slide, just to remind you that this is time for questions So you're welcome to put them in the chat if you haven't already, and if they haven't been answered, or raise your hand and we'll call on you in order of when you raise your hand. And if, Angel, if you wouldn't mind stopping the recording so that the questions and answer section is not recorded. Thank you.